Good evening, everyone. My name is Craig Howell. I'm your science teacher here at Albany Leadership. Now, for this year's virtual science fair, we asked our girls to do a series of research projects on a topic that they thought was important to them. Now, I was really proud of our girls. So many of them stepped up and really took to heart looking for an idea or a concept that maybe they had struggled with throughout the course of the year and really tried to research and become more familiar. So they really overcame a lot of obstacles this year, a combination of COVID, the pandemic, having to learn virtually, and having to use computers for most of their instruction, which is something they are very not used to. The work that they delivered this year for the science fair, I think, took them more time and more effort than anyone has ever had to put in for a science fair, and I'm really proud of the results. Now, I will be introducing a number of exemplars of what are some of our students' best work, and give them an opportunity to really talk about their interest and why they selected their project. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi everyone, my name is Faye Shaya Ogonasi, and my project is titled the water. I'm doing the water cycle for my science fair project. And the water cycle is a model that helps to explain the flow and movement of water on Earth. There are different processes that can help the water on Earth to transport to move from a place to from a phase of matter to another, which is like from solid to liquid and to gas, and then back and forth because it's like a recycling process. Evaporation is one of those processes, and it is when the sun's energy turns liquid water into water vapor, which is a gas. So the water molecules gain enough energy that is required for it to turn into water vapor. And then condensation is another process that turns cooled water vapor back into gas, which is when it turns cool air causes water vapor that has already been evaporated back into liquid water. And this process also calls for the formation of clouds. Precipitation is when the liquid water that has been condensed now falls back down to the earth. It's basically like water released from the clouds in different forms. It can be in form of rain, sleet, hail, or snow. It's basically like the process that causes for the water that gets evaporated and condensed to fall back down to the earth. Transpiration is also one of those processes, but it's like difficult to show, but it's also a very important part of the water cycle because it is the release of water from plants. So when precipitation falls to the ground, what water gets absorbed by plants in their roots in the soil, and the soil they transfer water back up to like the stems and the leaves and the branches and gives them those water nutrients. And so some of this water is then released by this process known as transpiration. Other processes are runoff, which is when water doesn't get absorbed into the ground and it just flows over the surface of the earth. Infiltration is when the water gets absorbed into the soil and becomes groundwater, which is what most of us usually drink. Groundwater is all the water underneath the ground. that was absorbed through infiltration. And sublimation is one of those processes when solid water, which is like ice, turns directly into gas, which is without the process of liquid, solid turns directly into gas. This is a image of the water cycle. It's shown here that evaporation is the first step, and then condensation and precipitation, transpiration, runoff, and groundwater. Okay, so some fun facts about the water cycle is that nearly nobody really knows how much, but like approximately 70 to 75% of Earth's surface is covered with water. And since water is being constantly being recycled, we could be drinking the same water that like maybe the George Washington drank, or like dinosaurs drank, and aquifers is just basically just underground water storage, like a reservoir underground. And some of you know this, but water is made up of two elements, hydrogen and oxygen, and it's one of the biogeochemical cycles. This is important because living things need water to survive, and without water, it will be like really difficult for the fishes and plants and for humans to keep on living. And so the water cycle is the process that helps to keep that water running, to keep recycling water so that the earth can be able to survive. And this is a quote from NASA. The water cycle is an extremely important process because it enables the availability of water for all living organisms and regulates weather patterns on our planet. If water didn't naturally recycle itself, we would run out of clean water, which is essential to life. Basically, what I just said before, we need water to survive, and so this is why learning about the water cycle is important. Because and also because it helps with like climate and weather, because depending on the climate, the form of precipitation relies solely on the climate. So if it has like cold weather, it will precipitation will fall in the form of snow, and if it's like warm, it can fall in like rain or something. So questions for future research is how does the water cycle affect trees, which I think I basically answered. Can human activities impact the water cycle? Why is transpiration necessary? And how does the atmosphere impact precipitation? Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Miss Marquardt. I'm one of the science teachers here at Albany Leadership High School, and I teach AP Biology, Living Environment, and Earth Science. I am so proud of all my students this year. Science is not an easy thing to do online and, with all the COVID restrictions, but I am proud of all of the hard work these girls have put forward despite all of the challenges that they've had to overcome. I've got such great projects from AP Bio and Living Environment and Earth Science, and I am so excited that I'm able to share the work with everybody here tonight.
Good afternoon, ALH family. My name is Jasmine, and I'm a 10th grader. And today I'm going to be talking about the impacts of the hurricanes in Puerto Rico. The background of this information is that Puerto Rico was a big island when Becky and Culebra were part of it before weathering eruption separate Vieques and Culebra from Puerto Rico. Now, Vieques and Culebra are little islands by Puerto Rico. In a bad way, almost like the Great Depression. This is similar because a lot of people lost their homes and jobs. People didn't have money to buy food. How many people left Puerto Rico after the hurricane? Over 200,000 left Puerto Rico after the hurricane because it was more like they lost their homes and temporarily, and some permanently island residents had no food power for almost a year. The hill system was overwhelmed in an understaffed forest sciences department couldn't keep up with the bodies piling up. How did the hurricane affected the beaches at Puerto Rico? This happened to the beaches in Puerto Rico after the Hurricane Maria. As we can see, the Hurricane Maria impacted Puerto Rico really bad. Fun fact about the Hurricane Maria is that it was Category 5 hurricane when she hit Dominican, Guadalupe, and Puerto Rico. At her peak, Maria and maximum sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. The storm brushed the eastern United States. Tropical storm and hurricane notice were posted from Dominican Republic to the Iceland. Why does the Hurricane Maria matters? The Hurricane Maria matters because it changed a lot of people's lives. The Hurricane Maria was one of the strongest hurricanes to hit Puerto Rico. A lot of people lost their homes and jobs. The Hurricane Maria left Puerto Rico without connection for about 6 months. My questions are, how can people be prepared for a hurricane like Maria? What is needed to survive a hurricane like Maria Category 5? What can be used for a hurricane? I found most of my questions and answers in this website, and Ms. Diaz helped me to talk about it because she's also from PR. So yeah, that would be it. Thanks for listening.
So for my science fair project, I'm doing the index fossils. This background information basically tells you like the causes of the cyanobacteria's evolution. So there are many factors that affects their life, like the earliest life. It was basically like they lived through the process of photosynthesis. My research statement or hypothesis is life on planet Earth has gradually evolved from the vast oceans. Water covers 71% of its surface due to the endless process called water cycle. However, approximately 3 billion years ago, Earth was once dominated by water. The idea of the water world is supported by various evidences, and as you can see on page 8 and 9 of the ESRT, like most of the creatures there are water creatures. The group of organisms to ever traverse through the great deep oceans are called the cyanobacteria. These microscopic organisms are responsible for one of the most significant events in the history of biology, or the Great Oxidation Event. Just to be aware of how the process of reproduction caused many organisms to live on and change over time. So I talked about how asexual reproduction was mostly like common for the earliest organisms since they were single-celled organisms, and it was easier. This basically says that the cyanobacteria reproduce through asexual reproductions since they were single-celled organisms, but the study says that mutation is most likely going to happen when an offspring was produced through this kind of reproduction, because the good and bad offspring is going to be selected through natural selection. So, here. But even though it was easier for the cyanobacteria to reproduce asexual since it only requires one parent, study shows that sexual reproduction often decreases the chance of genetic mutation due to natural selection between good and bad offspring. And I said, for the conclusion, I said my overall research were completely supported by strong empirical evidence, including the great oxidation event, where cyanobacteria obtained energy through the process of photosynthesis, which also created oxygen as its waste product, but was later released since it was not required for their survival. And one of the most reliable sources that also support my research statement is the study of how asexual reproduction tend to have more alteration within its genetic materials, showing us how the cyanobacteria most likely evolved as a result of genetic natural selection. So the fact that Earth was once completely covered by water is enough evidence to support that life began in the ocean depths.
Hello, my name is Russell Scott. I am a science teacher at Albany Leadership, and I'm currently teaching chemistry and environmental science. My educational background involves a PhD that I earned from the University of California at Berkeley in biochemistry, and I also hold a Bachelor's of Science in Biotechnology from the Rochester Institute of Technology. I wanted to take a moment to preface our environmental science project for this year. So, after discussing the limitations of planet Earth's resources at length in several previous units of the year, we are currently in a unit where we consider the difficulty of finding other Earth-like planets in the universe, which underscores the preciousness of the planet that we call home today. And all of the environmental science projects featured in this year's science fair in environmental science are focused around this topic. So please enjoy, and I look forward to future correspondence.
Hi, my name is Aaliyah Ibarra, and my main project's focus is seeing the difference of pH balance between the energy drinks Bang and Red Bull. I tested the pH balance using universal pH testers, which generally test the balance of pH in something, but it's very broad, it's not very specific. This is one of the pH testers that I had used, and this is for the Bang energy drink, which is an orange color, meaning that it's between a 3.0 and a 4.0 on the pH. This is the Red Bull one, which shows around the same color, meaning they have a similar pH. The caffeine amount in both Bang and Red Bull is very different, but in a sense not different enough for them to cause an exact change between both pH balances, which is why my experiment failed in the end, because both energy drinks have a similar content of caffeine and ingredients.